Today I am interviewing Natasha. She is a mom who I have met through Dayna Abraham's Calm the Chaos program and the Huddle, her online membership. And I really don't know Natasha. We have corresponded a little bit via messaging, and she accidentally messaged me not long ago. Well, somebody hacked your account. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that person messaged me, and then I didn't open it because I thought it was sort of odd. And I noticed it was a download or something. So I didn't open it, but then I noticed it went away. And I went ahead and messaged her and said, I didn't want to ignore you, but ignoring for a day to just sort of think about is one thing, but altogether is another. And so I messaged her back and said, I noticed you messaged me. And it turns out your account was hacked, but that got us talking a little bit. And I realized from one other text that I knew her through Dayna's program, because I was like, how do I know this lady? So I think this is important to share with our listeners, that I really don't know you. I don't know your situation. And we have chosen for me to not know too much, because I'm really getting to where I almost prefer to know very little about somebody before I record. I feel like if something doesn't go right, I don't have to release anything, but I get to ask you the questions my listeners would have. So if somebody has never listened to this episode before, here's their first question. Who is Dayna Abraham? What is Calm the Chaos? So I have put this out here in many different ways. Why don't you tell us what Dayna Abraham is, who she is, and what she's about?
Dayna Abraham, she was formerly a school teacher. She has put out an amazing, it's called a parenting program. It's called Calm the Chaos. She has an amazing free page on Facebook. It's called Lemon Lime Adventures. She really has a heart for out of box kiddos, which is your kiddos that they don't seem to fit in any particular mold. They're the kiddos that no matter what program, no matter how much research you do, they just don't seem to fit anywhere. And she has developed a program. She has developed a system with an amazing team behind her that works for, it seems, every child. If you really take the time to follow and to listen and to kind of put aside all judgment and all previous thoughts of what you thought parenting was, she has an amazing dynamic approach and system that will change everything. It has definitely changed our family. So it's definitely, yeah,
that's perfect. That and Chaos is her course. Is that the first thing that you ever did with Dayna?
When I first started, I actually stumbled across her free Facebook page, which is called Lemon Lime Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first started, I just followed her free page because we weren't at a point where we could afford to really pay for for a parenting program. And I was skeptical, because I'm like, okay, I can get tons of free parenting resources, and why would I pay for something? But I was following her page, and it kind of, my husband and I had hit rock bottom. We have a special needs kiddo, and nothing was working. So I'm like, okay, well, I think maybe we really need to take the next step. And that's when we went ahead and paid to join her. She has a 90-day training, and we went ahead and paid for that. And that's kind of just snowballed into being committed Calm the Chaos member from there. And it has changed not only how I parent, but it's changed how my husband and I communicate. It's changed how it's obviously changed how I've looked at myself. It's changed how I communicate with other people. So it is really a life transformation. So
Wow. So you hit rock bottom. And I believe me, I have been at rock bottom in my own life. And so you, even though you were skeptical about paying for this program, because for our listeners, the actual Calm the Course program is pretty pricey.
Yeah.
And yeah, and if you, in my mind, Dayna is not a therapist, so I don't want to put that out there. But if you were to compare it to therapy, in the end, it's really, you're going to spend less probably.
You are.
And but she also is now offering a lower cost membership. Are you in the membership now?
Well, the lower cost membership has kind of actually involved after I became a member of her
Chaos.
became a member of, I'm actually a member of her Next Step program.
Mm-hmm. And what is the Next Step program?
The Next Step program, after you go through the 90-day program,
Mm-hmm.
there's graduation, and they offer kind of a couple options. There's like the free alumni group, which is like, hey, you've gone through this, and there's basic support in the alumni group. And then there is like kind of a there's a middle group now that wasn't actually available when I did it, because I did it, I think 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the huddle, right?
That's the huddle.
Middle group. Okay.
Yeah. And that it's got, I mean, there's still a ton of, then there's more support, there's a little bit more interaction. I know Dayna does some stuff over there and stuff live, and she works with them too. And then their Next Step program is kind of one of the levels where we have not only Dayna, but we have her team. And there's like monthly support. There's just a whole lot in that program. And you find out like after you go through the 90-day program, that's all kind of explained.
That's just for the Calm the Chaos graduates, people who have been through the whole course. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I am involved in lots of different things, and I somehow missed the Next Step. I don't know how the heck I missed that, because I've gone through Calm the Chaos and I'm actually in the huddle, but now I'm like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to be in the Next Step one.
And I mean, there's a lot of people that go through the 90 days that they just decide Next Step's not for them. So
yeah,
it really
depends on what you want.
Yeah, it depends on it. I mean, part of it depends on like the level of accountability you want. So I am a person that I need a lot of accountability. If I don't have that, I come off the wagon pretty easily.
Yep, I can see that. So tell me where you were before you got started. Tell me only what you're comfortable with saying. I want to preface it with that. Don't share anything that you're not comfortable with the whole world knowing. How was life for you before you got started in Dayna's program? And I want my audience to know, my listeners to know, that I am sharing Natasha's story because I help promote. I'm an affiliate for Dayna, which means I get a kickback if somebody purchases something through my link. But when I first started with Dayna, I wasn't an affiliate. I just reached out to have her on my podcast because I saw her speak on stage somewhere. And I am a mom who has had some pretty big challenges with one of my kiddos. And she spoke straight to my heart. And I was like, oh my gosh, this woman has been where I've been. And then when I reached out to get her on the podcast, I learned she had not only been where I'd been, but she had solutions to the problems I had. And I joined this program because I could see that I could learn something from her. All I had ever done is seen her speak on stage, but she had homeschooled her super kiddo. That's what we call our sort of out of the box kids in the Calm the Chaos programs, are super kiddos, right? Your SK 7, super kid 7 years old, super kid 12, whatever, So, yeah. And I actually quite love that terminology, because sometimes as parents, we're dealing with some pretty challenging kids, and it keeps our kids in a positive light. And I love that. I love that. So go ahead and tell me. I'm sorry. I just wanted people to sort of know, if they've never heard anything, where I'm coming from, where you're coming from.
Well, my super kiddo, who is now 11, um, he's autistic, high functioning, and when he was little, he was an eloper, which means he was a runner. He was my little escape artist. And we were really struggling with him. He had got actually escaped our house a few times. So we were even dealing with, it had went to as far as we were dealing with the state. We had CPS involved. You know, they have all these state recommended programs that they want you to take. And I'm like, none of this is working. And it'd been a couple of years, and just nothing was working. The older he was getting, even though he was just a preschooler, I felt like I was disconnected with my own kiddo. I just didn't understand him. All the parenting advice that I was being bombarded with was just not working with him. And I had been following Lemon Lime Adventures, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe that'll work, you know? And so I finally got the courage and like, honey, I know we really financially can't afford this, but is there a way we can make it work? Because we were at a point, I had my oldest at the time, I think was 5 or so. I had a 3-year-old and I had a newborn. So, or like newborn 1-year-old, somewhere in there. So I had 3 kiddos under 5.
Say their ages again.
I had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So I mean, I had 3
So
kids.
none of them were school age yet.
None of them. So I was
Okay.
I'm at rock bottom, and
Mhm.
I'm just like, and my oldest is, before we even got into school, he's already, you know, we're already really struggling with them. And so we finally went ahead. We we signed up for the 90-day program. And we found the finances. More like we just figured out how not to pay some bills and pay for it instead. That's how desperate we were. So it was a big leap of faith. It was especially not knowing if this program would work. We'd only seen the free stuff. And we went through the program, and it not even a couple weeks into it, we started just to see, I mean, it started to help us look at our kiddos differently, because the one awesome thing with Calm the Chaos is they really emphasize all behaviors communication. So like your kiddo's not misbehaving because they just want to make parenting hard, or they're just trying to make your life hard, or they're just, you know, trying to make you feel like you failed or something.
Yeah,
Oh,
that is, I'm sorry, that is probably one of the very first messages I took from Dayna, is your child isn't giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time.
yep.
And that single concept, seriously, if all somebody were to take from this today, that single concept of understanding that in your mind is life changing. And
Yeah,
that in and of itself, what it was for you, it sounds like.
it was. And I mean, the picture, Dayna uses a picture of an iceberg where you only see the very top of it. And like on the top of it, you have like misbehaviors. But then underneath of it, you have like all these things like that could be happening, like emotionally, and just like even basic needs. Are they getting enough sleep? Are they, you know, are they having a hard time communicating whether they're hungry? Are they, you know, are they just not able to communicate how they feel or what they need? These were all things that were like so new to me. And I remember that, like that image of the iceberg and my kiddo being the tippy top of the iceberg, but all these things underneath. And that's what really made me realize that I needed to really dive in. I needed to find out what was underneath his iceberg.
And
So
That's when she spirals out. She'll do this like, here's the behavior. Now let's spiral it out and go backward and keep going backward and backward and backward until we find the root of
Yep.
what's going on. Yeah.
So,
So that for you, actually looking at here's my kiddo's behaviors, and then spiraling it out. Do you remember the first time you spiraled something out and where that led you?
I remember what I was, one of the first ones I tried to spiral out was like his, because he never asked, so it was like I just had never asking, and um and I remember spiraling it out, and I remembered that he is a kiddo that if I did, remember thinking, okay, why is he never asking? And he's a kiddo that, like, ingrainedly, he's almost intimidated to ask, which might seem weird, but he just, for some reason, that's a struggle of his.
What did he do instead of asking? Did he demand or just say nothing?
He just took. He would just take stuff. Like if he wanted food or whatever, he'd just take it. Or if he wanted something, instead of asking, he'd just take it. So I remember, so I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do about this? And so I leaned in, got some, like, hey, this is kind of where we're at. And I remember doing one of the things we did is we installed a safe bucket and for like snacks. And I remember telling my, at the time, little one, I'm like, okay, and this bucket's got snacks and you don't have to ask. And it's not stealing if you take from this bucket. And all of a sudden, after a couple weeks of working with him, he was just taking from that bucket. And he knew he didn't have to, he wasn't taking like going into the fridge or trying to go to the pantry, or he was just taking from that bucket. So that was kind of like a aha moment for us, because like he, for some reason, we finally seen he actually comprehended something. He actually understood something. He was actually learning something. Like, out of all the parenting classes we ever took, he was finally, okay, I know this is, we actually seen a system that was starting to work for him. And it was because we had spiraled and we had reached into, leaned into the community, and we had come up with this trial and error and system. And it was a really big moment for us to see our kiddo actually comprehending and understanding. So
yeah. My sister's son is actually autistic, and she's probably about where you were. She's got like 3 kiddos, 5 and under. And then she has a teenage girl that she's basically adopting. And so the challenging behaviors, I can relate as far as that goes. And I have a younger brother. He's never been diagnosed with autism, but it wasn't such a big thing, the diagnosis when he was younger. But I think my mom was always thought he is, and I can remember those behaviors. He's a lot younger than me, like 16 years younger, and complete meltdowns, just complete meltdowns. And so I see these challenging behaviors, and I have a child who can be challenging too. So these, I'm trying to think here. So do you want to explain actually what hitting rock bottom looks like for parents that have been there? They know, but if you have kids who are pretty easy, here's what I always say. You might not feel like you need Dayna's course, but I'm here to tell you, you will learn so many parenting techniques and tips that I don't care if you have an easy kid or a hard kid, you will benefit from this.
yes, it definitely. I mean, one of the things I can definitely say is Dayna's course is not just a parenting course. One of the things that I actually struggled with is Dayna's course focuses on, one of the first focuses is you. And
Mhm.
it's like that there, right there, like, okay, why am I focusing on me? I want to focus on my kid and how to take care of them. Like, I don't care about me. But that's like one of her emphasis is taking care of yourself and meeting your basic needs so you can be the best parent for your kiddos. And that right there is life changing for any parent, because I feel every parent, especially moms, neglect themselves. I mean, once you've got kiddos, you just, you don't take time for yourself, you don't prioritize yourself, and eventually you're going to burn out at some point. I mean, it's inevitable, whether when they're little or you burn out when they're teenagers, but you're going to burn out at some point.
And as you talk about that, Dayna influenced my own philosophy around homeschooling. And as we record this, I have just released an episode where I talk about my philosophy about homeschooling. And in this last episode, I've done this a few times over the years, but as time has gone on, I've refined what I think. But it is connection first, then community, then education. Now, in this last episode, you said in there, I have more to say about connection, because as far as for the philosophy of homeschooling goes, I'm talking about connecting with your kids. But here is exactly where I had more to say about connection, but you can't dive into everything all in one episode. You have to just sort of
Baby
a little
step.
at a time. Yeah, baby step it. Yep. And connecting with yourself is really important. Understanding yourself, where you come from, what triggers you as a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I bet there's something to dive into there. Did you figure things out about yourself in Dayna's course?
I
About
definitely,
where?
like when I had hit rock bottom, I remember asking God, I'm like, God, why did you even give me kids? Why did you entrust me with these kids? I'm failing. Um, I obviously was not meant to be a parent. Which for me to say was pretty crazy, because I'm the oldest out of 19 grandchildren. So I always was kind of deemed as the mini mommy growing up, because when you're the oldest out of a lot of grandchildren, and we all lived close together. So I would be in charge of all the little kids when we had family gatherings. And
Mhm.
so I thought parenting would be easy. I thought it would be a breeze. I thought I knew everything. And 5 years into parenting and three little ones, I felt like I was failing, and um I was struggling with my oldest, and I felt like I was neglecting the other two. So I was struggling so much with my oldest kiddo. And so I was just, it was, there was, I just didn't have anywhere to go. Even though I had a really good church community, I just felt like nobody understood my kiddos. Yes, they were in the most loving ways, trying to help, trying to give me advice, but nothing was relating to my situation. Um,
Yeah.
which is where Dayna really came in. Like just going through her course, going through her program, her team that she has behind her, that she has trained and that come alongside you, is just dynamic. Um, the fact that she really focuses not only on the kiddo, but she focuses on, you need to take care of yourself. And I had realized in the early years of parenting, I had lost who I was. I had lost, um, you know, my identity. I mean, I was just a mom, and I was a really bad mom because I couldn't keep control or um keep my kiddo safe. And
Y-
it's a really hard point. And so even though I had people telling me, it's okay, this is just this is just a hard season. You're going to get through it. You're going to get through it. So I had a good support system. That's the worst thing is I had good support around me, but even with that, I felt like I was failing.
I understand.
So,
Believe me, I understand.
um,
Because as a, you said a few things there. As a parent, you had lost, just as a mom, you had lost yourself. And I can say, I believe this can happen for every parent, but especially for homeschooling parents. If you don't take time to prioritize yourself, you will lose yourself. And I have absolutely been there where I can honest to some degree, this is how I have all these little things that came out of my life that led me into homeschool think tank. And people, if you've listened to other episodes, you'll know there's other stuff than what I'm going to say here, but I can literally remember just standing at the kitchen sink one day and gosh, I'm going to get choked up. And doing dishes and looking out the window, and I have a good life. It's not, I don't have a bad life at all. It's good. It's, it's a good life. But I'm just looking out the window and I'm thinking, is this it? Is this it? You're doing all the things for your kids, but I just thought, I did not want to just do dishes and clean toilets for the rest of my life. And I can remember having this moment of thinking that if I don't do something to change my future, this is how it is going to look until the day I die. And it is not what I wanted, and not that there's anything wrong with that. I enjoy caring for my family and having a tidy home and, cook. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really love cooking dinner anymore, but at the time I really didn't mind cooking dinner. But I just thought I've got to have more, that I want more from this life. And in your everyday life, you can sometimes just see, if I stay on this trajectory, this is exactly where I'm going to be in 10 years. So I guess, I'm sorry, I got off track, but so I started connecting with myself again, is the bottom line. But gosh, that other thing just makes me think something else. If you're having a really hard time with your kids right now, if you don't do something now, that's going to be the same thing. You're going to be in the same place, only in a greater way in 10 years from now. And that's where Dayna's programs it works. And I see it in there. It is honestly just unbelievable to me at times how she can have such a huge impact on her, not just her own family, but on the world.
yeah.
I mean, some of her free workshops, and a free workshop is going to be coming up soon. So if you have any friends, okay, it's coming.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
Meltdown Mastery. So what do you know about the Meltdown Mastery workshop so far, about what's coming?
well, I can say it's definitely a workshop. Don't let the name make you think it's just for little ones. It don't matter if you've got toddlers or if you've got teenagers that you're struggling with. The workshop is going to help. Because honestly, even, I mean, my oldest now is 11 and we're going through a new season. He's getting into the preteen season, and there's still times he has meltdowns. They don't look like a 3-year-old tantrum anymore, but there's definitely times he still has his meltdowns. So don't let the name make you think, oh, well, this is just, I'm past that parenting stage. So
no. I sort of thought that too with the name. That's funny that we both had that thought, that people might think this is just for little kids, because honestly, what you'll learn, and I haven't seen the workshop yet, I don't know, but I know enough about Dayna. She does things that what you learn, you can use with any kid, any age. You can, quite frankly, use it on yourself too. you take the principles she teaches you and you can apply it to your own life. That's my take. So I want to value your time. Do you have anything else that you think when we hang up from this call, what are you going to think? Oh, I should have shared that. Oh, I really want people to know that.
Well, the one thing Calm the Chaos is an amazing program, but like anything, you have to be willing to put the work into it. It's not an overnight magic program. There's no program out there that is. If it claims it is, run. That's what I tell parents. Because there's no program that it's just overnight going to change your family. It's any program you want to take your time, you want to invest in, you want to go through the steps, the process. With Calm the Chaos, honestly, at first I was like, well, I want to be, at step number 4, and I don't want to start at step 1. And but I chose to trust the process, even though it seemed at the time a little crazy. And because I did, it's worked. It has worked. I will admit, I've been, they call it a roadmap. I have slid back and I've gone forward and I've slid back, because my kids have gone through different stages. I now have actually 4 children. So I have an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old. So all 4 are homeschooled. So there isn't sending my kids off to school and getting a break. They're with me all the time. So I get a break when they go to church. That's about my break time, is when they go to Sunday school or when they're doing Awanas. But
that's when you get a break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, maybe if you want to come back another day, I'd love to visit with you just about homeschooling, because I love hearing stories. And sometimes I think if parents have a really challenging kiddo, you might think, forget this, I'm sending the kids to school. But you chose to homeschool. You never put the kids in school. Is that right? Or
Actually,
did you?
I started with my oldest in a preschool because
Okay.
because of his behavioral challenges and stuff. They wanted to mainstream him in kindergarten. This was a runner. This was a kiddo that was a little escape artist, that if he could get to the classroom door, he was gone, even in preschool. But they said that he wasn't special needs enough to qualify for services. So that was what started my homeschool journey. It was
keeping him safe.
It was keeping him safe. We homeschooled to keep my kiddo safe. Like, legitimately, that's why we homeschooled, because the school system did not see a need to provide services to keep my kiddo safe. So that was the beginning, and we just kind of haven't looked back. And now my oldest is in 5th grade. So I have a 5th grade, a 3rd grade, a 2nd grade, and a kinder this year. So
have you been with Dayna's programs then? It was 5 and he's 11, 6 years now? Or yeah, okay.
So it's been a roller coaster, I will say, even with Dayna's program. There's times that we have I guess kind of forgotten to implement things, and we've tried other things, but nothing.
Are you a human? Is that what you're saying? You're human?
Yes, I've tried other things. I mean, because Dayna's program is awesome, but it's like, what about, well, maybe now that we've learned this stuff from Dayna's program, maybe we can go try this. And I'll admit we've just always come back. That's why I feel Calm the Chaos it's for some, it can definitely be a lifetime commitment. That's kind of where I feel like my husband and I are at, because it is definitely something that we're always learning. Dayna and her team are always improving the program. There's been a lot of changes since I've been in the program. So it's just a continual growth, both in Calm the Chaos and with anybody that's following the program. There's constant, they're constantly trying to make it better and trying to, they keep the same framework, but how to improve the framework and how to make it as easy as possible for parents to be able to implement in their own homes.
Yep. I think that's a perfect wrap up point. You've summed that up nicely. Natasha, thank you so much. I really genuinely appreciate you sharing this, because it is one thing for me to interview Dayna and for Dayna to talk about her program. It's another thing for me to just say, here's my experiences. But I have no idea. When I messaged you, all I said is, how was your experience with Dayna's program? And I really do care, because I want to, I see what I see in there, which is a lot of happy parents, but here you are in my context. I literally wasn't sure if you were still in the program. You could have left unhappy with it. And if you would have said, I really didn't like it, I would have asked you, what didn't you like about it? I wouldn't have just dropped the ball there. So for you to just come on, I mean, clearly I'm going to want to share with somebody who's had some good experiences, but I didn't know what your answer was going to be when I asked you that question. And then when I bring you on here, I didn't know what you looked like. We're on a Zoom call now, so we have this video up. And if Natasha's still good with me sharing it as a video, I'll share it as a video. Are you still good after the interview? Okay. Because I always want to value my guests' privacy, and I don't want to share something you don't want out there. That's all there is to that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's baby steps. If, you're even a little bit interested, you've watched this podcast and you're just a little bit interested. There's she's doing that free workshop, I think at the end of this month. So it's coming up pretty quick.
Yeah. And I will have a link to that in the show notes that goes with this episode.
So, and then I started following the free page, and I finally took a leap of faith. And
she has a book. So, I always talk about the courses, these things, and I have links to all this stuff in the show notes. She has a book, the Super Kids Activity Guide. She has Sensory Processing 101. There's another book as well. She's a best-selling author. And, she's taken the best of all the things that these parenting experts share, right? Ross Green and Daniel Siegel and all these different people, and sort of brought these methods together under this one umbrella called Calm the Chaos. And I mean, she's even had Daniel Siegel speak in her group. So yeah, you remember that?
Yeah. That's the thing is it's so much more than a parenting group. It is, I mean, it's a life-changing program. And I think if you keep an open mind, it's gonna change something. I also know if you're thinking, well, there's no way my husband or my partner would be on board with this. There is a ton of, we actually have a ton within our group that they still have their partner or their husband isn't necessarily on board with it, but they're okay with them doing the program, on their own.
What? I'm sorry. I know you can make a lot of differences with just yourself.
Yep.
And, years ago, before Dayna, before any of this stuff, we were in therapy, and we still have a therapist, but I made all the changes initially were I had to make the changes. You have a lot more power than you sometimes think as a parent, and you don't necessarily realize how much you can do as one person. Yeah. And so you can implement a lot even if the rest of the family isn't on board. It sure is helpful if the rest of the family is on board.
But it's not a requirement. That's the big thing. It's definitely not a requirement. And I mean, especially with us as moms, we're usually the ones that are doing majority of the discipline, or because a lot of times if we're home, especially homeschool, I mean, our I know if we have a husband or a significant other, they're out working, so we can do the homeschooling. So but I also know there's single moms that homeschool too. And I mean, it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter your family dynamics. Calm the Chaos is gonna help any, I feel like any family dynamics. It doesn't matter if your kids are toddlers or if you're got all teenagers, they're still gonna.
Yep. And so that free Meltdown Mastery Workshop is coming up. I've got links to that, or people can sign up for that in the show notes, and sign up for it, even if that is all you ever do.
And
just implementing what you learn in there can make a big difference.
it can. And the nice thing with any of Dayna's workshops is if you can't catch it live, if you sign up for it, you can watch the videos at any time. So it's not like, well, I can't, will this work on my time frame? Yes, because you can watch the recordings anytime. So
thank you for sharing that. There's so many things I take for granted, just knowing her, or maybe you could have, for sure. I mean, gosh, you've been part of her program for a long time. Knowing that you can catch the recordings is a big deal. So you can do the live trainings where you can get in there and ask questions and some support through all of that. And the courses are more than a course. The membership is like lessons and community. The course has community. Anything you do, if it's an online program, you're going to have community with
Yep.
Dayna's program, from Dayna and her team. She has a rock solid team that supports her. So,
yeah.
All right, this time we'll wrap it up for real, Natasha. You did it more than you know.